off the evening now with your final two mentors, guest mentors, in a really powerful way, but I want to share with you a thought. Diane Ackerman once said, when I get to the end of my life, I want to not only have lived the length of it, I want to have lived the width of it as well. You know, it's the idea of just literally sucking all of the juice and marrow out of the life, not just cruising, not existing, but living it. We're going to bring up a mentor now who can exemplify that, particularly within this profession. And his statistics, if you just look at those, are extraordinary because you'd again think, wow, what a young gun wonderkind when he got started. He's been in this profession since 1988, 28 years, well more than half of his life because he's only 46 years old. When he got started in this profession at the age of 19, it was with a Titan company, a company that still today is a multi-billion-dollar global giant. In fact, by the age of 21, he had achieved what was, at least at that time, the highest rank that existed in that company. To this day, he still holds the record as the youngest person who ever achieved that rank. He left that company after 3 years, and the next 25 years of his career has been with one company. When he joined that company, it was only 5 years old. It's now a 30-year-old company, and again, a global powerhouse. He was the first person to ever become a seven-figure earner in a single year, and he's been doing that for the last 18 years. In fact, within his team, he has the largest group of all of the top leaders, top income earners, top rank earners, and it's because he understood the power of leadership by example and leadership development and coaching others to become as great as they could be as well. He is the number one income earner in that company. So how did all that happen from the age of 19 that fast? Remember, you have to have done the work somewhere. His father was a general contractor and entrepreneur, owned his own business. He began going to work with his father when he was 6 years old. Dad said, come along, just take a look. Let's enjoy the process. By the time he's 8 and 9, he's getting handed hammers. By the time he was 12, he knew how to drive a backloader. At the age of 12, he started his first business called Parisers Prunes, a landscaping business. I'll make sure to prune the hedges, cut the grass, and give you the most beautiful lawn. At 16, he was tying steel on construction crews, coordinated with his father in Seattle, where they're building bridges where you've got rebar coming out of concrete and tying the steel. He understood the power of hard work, and if you worked hard enough, you could outwork everybody and get to the top. It's a great way to start off this evening's sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the GoPro stage, Mr. Alan Harrison!
I cut out the singing after those guys. The tenors were unbelievable. Holy cow. It's awesome to be here. It's truly an honor to address you guys on the closing night. And how many of you have been here for the entire 4 days? How many of you are your heads just ready to pop? I mean, how many of you are ready to go out there and recruit everyone on Las Vegas Boulevard? Yeah, I bet you are. My wife and I have lived here now for about 8 years, and we're having a blast. And let me just give you a little bit of warning. You know, if you're going to celebrate later tonight, maybe you're going to have dinner, maybe you're going to a show, maybe some of you have like some exotic entertainment plan for later tonight. We are in Las Vegas. All of those advertisements you've seen on television, you know what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? That ain't true. What happens in Vegas ends up on social media. So if you go out and have a great time tonight, have fun. Just don't do anything that you wouldn't want us to see, because we will see it. Friends, my journey started in 1988, and I was living in Southern Florida. That's where I was raised. And I had just finished high school. I was accepted to college, and that was a big surprise to me. I was going to school in Massachusetts at Brandeis University, and my parents were really excited. My mom wanted me to be a doctor. My dad wanted me to be an attorney, and I get kind of queasy around the sight of blood, so I had no idea of why I was going to college. And by happenstance, one afternoon, I answered an ad in the Palm Beach Post, and the ad said, earn $10,000 a month and drive a Mercedes and wear tailored clothes. And I wanted that job. So I answered the ad, I left my name and my phone number, and a few hours later, the phone rang in our house. I ran upstairs, I grabbed the phone from my mom's hand, because back then the phones were tethered to the wall with a wire. And I said, my name's Alan Pariser. I said, what's this all about? And he said, I'm not going to tell you. If you're interested, come to my house tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And I said, great. I said, what's the address? And how do I get there? Because we didn't have Google Maps back then, so you had to write down the directions. And then I said, well, what is this all about? And he said, look, I told you already, I'm not going to tell you. If you're interested, come to my house tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And he hung the phone up on me. Now, how many of you have ever seen Scarface before? Oh, you have? See, that's the environment that I grew up in southern Florida. In the early 80s, Castro opened up the jails, and he let all the criminals and all the drug lords wash up on the beaches of southern Florida. And I'm walking down the stairs, and I'm thinking to myself, this might be a drug deal. And my mom met me at the bottom of the stairs, and she said, what happened? I told her what happened, and she said, well, you're not going to go, are you? And I said, Mom, I said, if there's 1 in a million shot chance that I can make $10,000 a month, I'm going. And she said, well, you are 17. I guess you can do whatever you want to do. Do me a favor. If he offers you any drinks, just refuse them. I said, Mom, here's one better. Here's the guy's phone number. Make sure you call every 10 minutes after 7 o'clock. Speak only to me and make sure that I'm still alive. And I didn't sleep very well that night. I got to the job interview a half an hour early, and that's when I started to get really scared. If you've ever seen Miami Vice, this guy's home looked like it came right out of Miami Vice, a perfect drug dealer's home. There was a white marble driveway. There were 2 Mercedes in the front driveway, gold packages on each, and there was blue Ludovici tile on the roof. Now, you probably don't know what that is. My father's a contractor, and when we would drive around in southern Florida, he would say, son, that's blue Ludovici tile. It's the most expensive tile on the planet, and whoever lives in that house is rich. So I got really scared. Now, the way I remember, 7 o'clock finally rolled around. I walked up to this guy's door, and I rang the doorbell, and there was no answer. So I rang the doorbell again. And if you've ever seen a scary movie where the door slowly creaks open. So I peered inside, and I didn't see a single person until I finally looked down, and there he was, a short Cuban man with a receding hairline. His shirt was buttoned all the way down to his belly button. He had this black hairy chest and a gold medallion sticking out right from his hairy chest. And I looked at this and I was like, I've met the kingpin of drugs. And he saw how nervous I was. He invited me inside. He sat me down and he said, can I get you a drink? And I was like, I really saw these headlines in the Palm Beach Post, youth slain in search of opportunity by Florida's kingpin of drugs. I thought I was dead. And my friends, that was my introduction to our industry. And pretty exciting, right? So I got really excited. I left Florida and I went up to college and I started working. I started working 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. At the end of my first semester, I graduated Brandeis. Well, I didn't graduate. I finished a semester with a B average, and I was making a lot of money for an 18-year-old kid, enough that I decided to quit college. My parents were pretty upset. I was pretty excited, and I dug in deep. And like Curtis said, within a year, I achieved the highest status in that company. I was 19 years old. I believe I still have that status today. And I really thought that I was on the road to a business that would last a lifetime, and it didn't work out quite that way. Unfortunately, that company had severe challenges in the early 90s, and it's difficult to build a business when all the attorneys general are suing your company. And everyone in my downline left. I was 21 years old. I was $100,000 in debt. I was broke. no college degree. My oldest daughter is 3 years old, and my newest daughter was only 3 weeks old. And I was scared out of my mind. And luckily, a bunch of friends of mine got together and we found the business that we are involved with now. And it has been an unbelievable business. 25 years in the same business. We are more excited about our business today than we have ever been. And what I'd like to do now is share with you some ideas, some things that we've done over the past 27 years to really live the good life and to have a business that lasts a lifetime. So in my mind, if you really want to have a business that lasts a lifetime, you need to start off with making a decision. And you need to decide exactly what it is that you want to get out of this life, exactly what you want to get out of your business. Simple decision that anybody of us can make. Let me backpedal for a little bit and give you some more foundation of how I grew up. My father was in construction, and that's a transactional kind of business. You know, you build a house, sell a house, build a house, sell a house. My parents had 5 kids. Try juggling that business with 5 kids. And my childhood friend, my sister Stacy, who's still my hero, had leukemia for 17 years, and my parents did everything that they could to keep her alive that entire time. We found ourselves in Seattle, Washington in 1986, and my dad got me a job tying steel. Do we have any rod busters in the room? Any rod busters in the room? Just one man over here? That's it? 8 hours a day. There you go. All right. 8 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. 16 years old, making $18.26 an hour. I was working with men who were in their 50s and 60s, making $18.26 an hour, and it was back-breaking work every single day. It was work a week, get paid a week. When I answered that ad in the Palm Beach Post and sat down in Dr. Maggie and Mo Ordoki's home, I said, this is it. Are you kidding me? Build a business once that you could have residual income for the rest of your life? And I made a decision right then and there in 1988 that this would be the industry that I was going to build with. Now, it's a little bit more than just making a decision. You know, if you really want to become successful, in my opinion, you need to have some emotional leverage. And emotional leverage is that thing that rips at your heartstrings. It's that thing that keeps you up late at night. It's that thing that forces you to push through your comfort zone and compels you to become successful. And for everybody, emotional leverage is different. When Cortez came to the New World, he burned his ships, and that was a signal to his men. We either succeed or we perish. Now, my emotional leverage came in 1989. This is my emotional leverage. Actually, for some of you, that just might be a nightmare. Look at my hair. This is when my daughter Sabina came into the world in September of 1989, and when she showed up, it pushed me to do everything I did not want to do and forced me to become successful. You need to make a decision, you need to have emotional leverage, and then you need to be ready to make another decision. And the next decision is, what are you willing to give up in order to get? What kind of sacrifices are you willing to make in order to become successful? And the more successful you want to become, the more sacrifices you have to be willing to make. Because the truth is, nobody gets successful in our industry by chance. This isn't a lottery. This isn't some pyramid. This is something that you have to work for. And when my parents sent me away to college, they said, listen, Alan, enjoy the next 4 years of your life because they're going to be paid for. You're going to have to worry about the next 40. And that equation never made any sense to me. Why work hard for 4 years and worry about the next 40? So I made a conscious decision right then and there that I was going to sacrifice the supposed best years of my life so my family and I could enjoy the rest of our life. And you know what? That's exactly what's happened. I mean, we are living an awesome life. We just finished having a party. We live here in the hills of Henderson, and we just finished having a party with 200 of our closest friends celebrating our 25th year of being in business. Some of these people I've known since my late teens, and now they're in their early 40s, 50s, and 60s. We just finished building our dream home. It took us 3.5 years up here in the hills of Henderson, and that is the view as the sun sets. The Warries are going to be our neighbors if they ever finish building their house. I was talking to them about that on backstage. This is us during the day. That's the view of our backyard. And there's my beautiful wife, Sandra, and our 2 little girls. One's 4, one's 2. And if you've been following along, yes, I've been having kids for 25 years. Here's my 27-year-old, my 22-year-old, 25-year-old, 22-year-old, and they're all doing great in life. We're really proud of them. Here we are with our friends in St. Petersburg. Here we are with our friends in Africa. Here's my wife at our convention. She was Joan Jett for a night. It was so much fun. It was awesome. And I actually got to go home with a rock star. That was cool. Didn't even have to pay her. That was cool. And here's our home office. We built our home so we could build our business around our home. But this success didn't come without hard work. In fact, I could take every single person in this room and put them into my car and start off in southern Miami and drive all the way to the tip of New Hampshire. And I would be hard-pressed not to point out some exit off of I-95 where I met with someone at a Denny's or met with someone at their home or met with someone at a hotel doing a presentation or a strategy session or helping them get out of a flat spot or a training. And I'll never forget, there was a period of time, it was almost 4 weeks on the road, and I was fried. It was 5 one-on-one presentations a day. It was a hotel training at night, followed by talking with other people afterwards. And at the end of that 4-week period of time, I was somewhere in Connecticut in someone's home. And there were 4 people in front of me, and I was exhausted. And I sat down. I started doing my training with my flip chart, which was made out of paper. And I finally woke up, and I saw this. These 4 people were staring at me. And I looked at them, and I said, did I do what I think I just did? And they said, well, what do you think you just did? And I said, well, did I just fall asleep in the middle of my presentation? And they said, yeah, you did. And I said, well, was I making any sense? And they said, it's the most amazing thing. You were actually making a lot of sense. And I said, awesome. Wake me up when I'm done. And the truth is, friends, that if you want to be successful, you have to pay the price. You know, the truth is that you can we go back just one slide? I pushed way too quickly. You can either pay now or play later, or you can play now and pay later. Either way, you're going to pay. Isn't it awesome that we have a business that we can choose to pay now and have an awesome life for the rest of our life? That's what we have here, if you're willing to do the work. Now, I, for the rest of my time, would like to share with you 9 core fundamentals that have allowed us to become successful over the past 27 years that you can take home today and implement in your business right away. And here's the first thing. The first thing is that you need to associate yourself with those people who are right now where you want to be. I mean, you heard Tony talk about this last night, right? If you can associate yourself with the people who are already successful, you can learn the way that they think, learn their approaches, learn their objections, learn how to handle with disappointment. And I can't think of a better forum than these past 4 days in order to find people to associate yourself with. You know, when Eric called me and asked me, would you do a little speaking for us at GoPro? I said, sure. He said, Alan, he said, you have to understand, we're really selective. We don't let anybody on stage unless they've earned over $1 million a year. And so you've gotten the best from the best. You know, the opposite of that is in this world that we live in, you really have to navigate the noise. And what I mean by that is that in our world of the internet and social media, there are so many self-proclaimed gurus and so many prophets out there that unfortunately have never done anything in our business. And the reality is you have to be really careful who you follow if you want to succeed in our business. You don't have ESP. How many of you think you have ESP? Okay, 3 people in the back. Let me tell you my costliest mistake in my life. The costliest mistake was when I started with our current business. And there was a friend of mine who I met in his late teens, and he was now 23. and he wanted to be a partner of mine in my current business. And in my infinite wisdom, I knew that he wasn't going to succeed. And I told him to sponsor in with somebody else. Now, he's still in my business, but he's not my personal enrollee. He's not on my first generation. He's on my third. And this kid wanted it so badly. He went straight to the top. He had the highest position in the shortest period of time. And I can't tell you how much money, but if I were to calculate it, the amount of money that I lost because I didn't give him a shot is more than most families will earn in their entire life. The fact is, when you find someone who wants to win, you need to give them a shot. And when you find someone who wants to win, you need to make their success your mission. And I know that's the big thing. How do we find the right people? How do we work with the right people? Well, let me tell you, you'll know who the right person is. That's the kind of person that shows up, and no matter what success looks like, they are going to achieve it. They have what I like to call URD, which is unending, relentless desire. There's a brick wall and success is on the other side. They're going to dig a hole to get there. They're going to stand on someone's shoulders to get over. They're going to punch a hole through that brick wall. When we find somebody like that, and for my wife and I, it's about 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 people, we wrap our arms around those people and do everything we possibly can to help them become successful. We help them with their contact list. We help them with our approaches. We do every presentation for them, and we help them get to the highest status possible in the shortest period of time. The reality is, when those kinds of people show up, we need to show up as leaders and help them become successful. Point number 5, you need to buy into this abundance mentality versus scarcity mentality concept. Now, in the late 80s, someone handed me a business card with 2 donkeys and a bale of hay. And I thought it was the perfect image of the abundance mentality, and then I lost the business card. And then finally, when the internet came to be a thing of age, I got excited and I wanted to find this image, so I typed in 2 donkeys and a bale of hay. And you can imagine what kind of images showed up for me. But this is that image. As you can see here, when we're working against each other, we can only get so far. But when we decide to work together, we can accomplish so much more. And if you're the kind of person that says, hey, I've been with my company now for 10 years or 15 years, there's no one else for me to contact. That's the scarcity mentality. The abundance mentality says, look, we have 76 million baby boomers who can't afford to retire. And we have an opportunity for those people, or there are an additional 80 million millennials out there who are trying to find a way to make some money in the current economy, and we have the opportunity for them. I think the greatest example of abundance mentality is what Eric and his producers have put together here for us. This kind of 4-day forum where we can all come together from different companies in different parts of the industry and share our ideas and walk out of this room as better people and more successful people. I think you should give Eric a huge round of applause for putting this on. Absolutely unbelievable. Let me start this one by telling you what the opposite of personal growth is. The opposite of personal growth is when people are so insecure that they cling to their limiting beliefs and they can't grow as people. And the end result for them is self-sabotage. And I've seen this many times over the past 27 years where I brought people into our business. They were dead broke. They had absolutely nothing. We worked really hard together. They built massive organizations to the point that they were set for the rest of their life, but they never grew as a person. And they ended up sabotaging themselves, either because they stole credit cards or they faked accounts. They got terminated and they had to start all over again. I think the biggest prize that we can give ourselves in this business, in this industry, is personal growth. How many of you have gone through some personal growth over the last 4 days? I mean, the best in the industry, Eric Worre, Richard Branson, Tony Robbins. If you haven't gone through any personal growth over the last 4 days, you've been like this, or you've been on the strip. Number 7, Belief. You know that those who believe persuade the best. And in our industry, in my opinion, if you want to have a business that lasts for the rest of your life, you need to be able to believe in your company's products, your company's management team, and in your compensation plan in that order. And really, if all you believe in is the compensation plan, you're not going to get very far, as you'll see here in a second. Point number 8, don't confuse disappointment with disaster. Friends, I can tell you that if you decide to make this your industry, something that will take care of you for the rest of your life, you're going to go through exciting times and frustrating times. How many of you have been through those frustrating times? And more exciting times and more frustrating times. And we have to remember that it's what happens in that moment of disappointment that decides what our future is going to be. And this reminds me of that story of the lady that had 10 kids, Kanahara. And she baked a lot of cookies. And she'd put her cookies into a cookie jar. And then she'd call on the 10 kids. And the oldest would run in the first. And then the second oldest. And finally the smallest. And this one time, the smallest reached into the cookie jar and grabbed just one last cookie. And that cookie, a little piece of the cookie had been taken off. He was so disappointed that he slammed it on the ground, and what could have been a delicious treat was absolutely destroyed. I've got to tell you that in 1996, I was 6 years into my current company, and I was at the top of my game. I was poised to get to the highest status in our company. There were massive bonuses in front of me, and wouldn't you know it, there was some multi-level company that came into town and paid my newest leaders to go into that company. Within a year, that company had dissolved, and my newest leaders, they were left holding an empty bag of nothing. And my friends and I got together, wrapped our arms around each other. We realized that our products were better than they ever were. Our management team was better than it ever was. Our compensation plan was better than it ever was. And all we had to do was go out and find some new leaders, which I know was a pain, but nonetheless. And that's what we did. And if you take a look at this pie chart, the yellow represents the amount of income that I earned from 91 to 96, and then that year of despair, everything in the green represents the totality of what we've earned afterwards, which is certainly the preponderance. So when that moment of disappointment comes, never associate it with total disaster. And here's the final thing that I will leave you with. Before I do this, can I do just one thing really fast? This is the first time in 27 years that I've had my wife, my mom, and my dad in the same room. And if it wasn't for their support and their love and their patience, I never would have been here. So can I just take 1 second and thank my mom and my dad and my wife who are sitting right there for everything that you've done for me over the past 30 years. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So here's the last thing. And the last thing is that you've been here for 4 days. You probably paid a lot of money to get here. You probably traveled long distances to get here. And now it's time for you to take what you've learned and to draw your line and to go out there and make your mark and make it happen. And the truth is, it doesn't matter what you came here with, what kind of baggage or what kind of problems. The reality is that every single person in this room can go out and make their business and their life what they want it to be. Ray Kroc was 52 years old. He was a self-proclaimed failure. He was a milkshake machine salesman. He was bankrupt. His health was failing him. But at age 52, he saw something that he was so passionate about that he went out and changed his life, changed the world's life, and created the most successful restaurant business that history's ever seen. Everybody here has that power. If you make the decision, that line, if you draw it on the sheet of your paper, everything to the left of it is up until this moment in your life, and it's in the past. And everything to the right of it is from this moment to the right. and it can be whatever you want it to be. Always bear in mind that your own resolution to succeed is far more important than any other one thing. Thank you guys very much for your time. God bless you, and best of luck to everybody.
GoPro! Ow! Ah! It is a privilege as we prepare for our final guest mentor of GoPro. I haven't worked quite hard enough because I was supposed to be completely out of a voice, but I'm just getting close, getting a little squeaky. By the way, one thing earlier on the poster that you saw signed by Tony and by Sir Richard as well as Eric for the silent auction, whoever wins that, 100% of the funds go to charity as well. We wanted to mention that. So for those who got those big philanthropic hearts, go big, grab that, the only one of its kind. I want to share with you as one of the final quotes of the evening from Mark Twain. It was an interesting perspective. He said, 20 years from now, you will be less disappointed, or you will be more disappointed by the things you did not do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bow lines. Sail away from the safe harbor. Catch the trade winds in your sails. Go, explore, dream, and discover. That's where we are so close for all of you, is putting you in that position, as Alan just said, go out there and make it happen. I will tell you now about someone who understands the power of dreaming and exploring and discovering. I was so excited when I found out that she was going to be here to speak. I've known of her for such a long time because she's got such an amazing history, but I had never met her. I know, you know who it is. I was like a little kid at Christmas going, I want to open that present, that one right there, I want to open that one. And I had a chance to talk to her. Instead of trying to quote a lot of stuff, I just want to tell you a story. I got to meet such an extraordinary woman, and you're about to meet her right now. Many of you already have. She's been involved or been around network marketing since 1988, but it's even her history before that. So many years before that, she was such a powerful and successful success coach and trainer. She worked with some of the largest companies in our country. She would give as many as 115, 118 speeches and talks around the country and around the world per year. She had her own television programs in the Arizona area.